Before this hour is over, you will remember what heaven already wrote into you. I speak this not as a hopeful wish, but as a decree under divine law, long before the noise of the world began speaking over your soul, before fear disguised itself as reason, before you were taught to mistrust the still, small voice within. The infinite mind placed its perfect counsel in the deepest chamber of your being. It has never been erased. It has never been altered. It has never been silenced except by your own agreement with the lie of separation. And now, in the span of this holy hour, the covering will be torn away. I do not come to add anything to you. I come to strip away the foreign garments you have worn too long. I come to awaken you to the truth that the wisdom of God in you is as present now as the day He declared, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee." You have been walking in a fog of second-hand answers, yet even the fog is only a thin vapor. One breath of spirit will clear it, and that breath is moving even now, through my words, into your consciousness, into every hidden corridor where you have been holding court with confusion. So listen with the expectancy of one who knows the gift is already given. Stand in the attitude of immediate reception. For before this hour closes, the counsel you have begged the heavens to send will rise from within you, clothed in clarity, and you will know beyond all argument that the voice was never absent, only unheard. This is the moment of reawakening, and you will not leave as you came. Your wisdom has not died. It is waiting to speak. I say this with the authority of divine law, for the mind of God is eternal and cannot suffer decay, and the fragment of that mind, which is the real you, remains whole and inviolate, untouched by the shifting tides of circumstance, untouched by the verdicts of men, untouched even by your own seasons of doubt. You have mistaken silence for absence, but silence is the patient breath of spirit, holding its word until your inner ear is tuned to hear. All the while, this wisdom has been leaning toward you, pressing against the veil of your human reasoning, seeking only the moment when you would cease striving long enough for it to flow forth. It does not arrive from without. It unfurls from within, like the flower that needs no map to find the sun, for its whole design is the reaching toward light. And yet, you have been taught to measure truth by its noise, to think that guidance must come with clamor, with signs written in the sky, with the endorsement of the many. But divine wisdom is never a beggar for attention. It is a sovereign voice, confident in its authority, speaking in a tone so certain that it requires your stillness, not your striving, to be received. This is why even now, as I speak, there are words that seem to bypass the narrow hallways of logic and land directly in the great open courts of your spirit. That is the speech of the eternal you, the God-imaged mind in full remembrance of its origin. The outer man hears me, but the inner man hears himself, and recognizes the sound. This is the holy dialogue that has awaited your consent, and in this hour, we will not only uncover it, we will enthrone it as the ruling voice of your life once more. If God has already placed His counsel inside you, why do you still ask strangers what to do? This is the piercing question that must be faced without flinching, for it exposes the habit that has delayed your unfolding for years. You have gone from person to person, book to book, hour to hour, gathering opinions as a beggar gathers scraps, when all along you have been the heir to the banquet table of divine wisdom. You have trusted the map in another's hand, rather than the compass in your own soul, and then wondered why your path feels foreign, why the scenery lacks the fragrance of destiny. Every time you defer to the voice of fear in another, or the fear disguised as caution within yourself, you trade the gold of God's perfect guidance for the counterfeit coins of human guesswork. You cannot arrive at your promised land by following the footsteps of those who are wandering still. And yet, this is what the world has trained you to do, to believe that authority resides somewhere out there, that safety is found in the multitude of counselors who speak from their own shadows. But the spirit within you does not echo the confusion of the masses. It declares the straight and narrow way that only you can walk. When you begin to trust that voice, the voice that is your birthright, the questions you once hurled into the air will begin to dissolve, not because you have been handed an explanation for everything, but because you have come to rest in the infallible certainty that the one who guides you cannot fail. You will know in the marrow of your being that His counsel is not a fleeting whisper you must chase, but a living current that flows without ceasing. ready to carry you the moment you step into its stream. And this stepping in begins now, with the simple, unwavering decision to honor the wisdom already written into your spirit as the highest and final word on your path. There is a sentence you will speak before this hour ends that will unlock that counsel and cause it to rise like a spring breaking through the hard earth. And when it rises, it will not trickle timidly, but pour with the force of something long restrained, something whose appointed time has come. This is not a poetic promise meant to charm the ear. It is the operation of spiritual law. The moment the right word is spoken in faith, the moment it is declared from the seat of authority within rather than from the porch of wishful thinking, the walls of delay and obscurity collapse as surely as the walls of Jericho fell at the shout of obedience. I will lead you to that word, but not before the soil of your mind has been broken open, for seed cast on unbroken ground will never root. Already, through these minutes, we have begun that breaking, the sharp edge of truth, cutting through old agreements with fear, the steady pressure of spirit loosening the grip of borrowed opinions on your heart. You must understand, the sentence that will be given is not magic in the sense of charm or incantation. Its power lies in its alignment with eternal reality. It works because it affirms what already is in God, what already is in you, and in speaking it, you are not pleading for something to come into existence. You are commanding the unveiling of what heaven has preserved in perfection since before your first breath. When you speak it, you will not be sending a request up into the clouds. You will be striking the gavel in the court of your own being, rendering a verdict that all of heaven's resources rush to enforce. And from that moment, the wisdom you thought had been lost will walk beside you as an open ally, speaking in moments when the mind is still and in moments when the noise of life would otherwise drown it out. For once you have broken the seal, the voice will not be hidden again. You are not empty, you are clouded. And the difference between those two conditions is the difference between despair and immediate restoration. Emptiness suggests absence, a void where nothing can be found, a soul stripped of its inheritance. But cloudedness is merely a temporary obscuring, like the morning mist that cannot withstand the touch of the sun. The wisdom of God in you is the sun, steady, blazing, unchanging, and the clouds are the suggestions, the fears, the false narratives that have drifted across your inner sky. You have mistaken these passing vapors for the truth of who you are. You have stared into their shifting shapes and imagined they defined you. But clouds have no root, no permanence. They can only dim the light if you grant them power. The moment you refuse them the authority to interpret your reality, they begin to thin and scatter, revealing the radiant clarity that was there before they ever formed. I tell you plainly, the clouds are composed of nothing more than the accumulation of every you cannot, and you should fear that the world has ever spoken over you, and of every echo of those words that you have allowed to repeat in your own mind. They are not a solid wall, they are a breath's width from dissolving. When you understand this, you stop treating your inner fog as a fortress and start treating it as the fragile illusion it is. And the weapon that scatters it is the spoken word of truth. Each declaration of divine identity is like the wind from the mouth of God, sweeping the sky clear. This is why you have been brought here, to remember that nothing has been taken from you, that the treasure is intact, and that you need not beg for its return. You need only remove the veil that your own agreement with error has drawn across it. And as the veil lifts, you will see that you are not in need of light. You are the vessel through which the light of divine wisdom pours without measure. I will speak swiftly now, for the spirit of urgency is upon me. What I am telling you is not an abstract comfort, not a gentle sentiment to tuck away in a journal, but a call to immediate action in the realm of thought and word. When the clouds part, you must step into the light without hesitation, for the human tendency is to marvel at clarity and then retreat into old habits, to admire the view from the mountaintop, yet return willingly to the valley of confusion. But divine law does not open the heavens for you to merely look. It parts the veil so that you may enter, so that you may claim and walk in the inheritance you have allowed to lie dormant. Just as the seed buried beneath asphalt will press upward at the first crack, using the slightest opening to manifest the life within it, so your wisdom will rush to the surface the moment you allow even a pinhole of faith to pierce the hardened layer of doubt. See this clearly. The seed does not need to be taught how to grow, and you do not need to be taught how to know. The life is already encoded in the seed. The wisdom is already encoded in your spirit. The only thing that delays its emergence is the artificial covering, the false conclusions about yourself, about God, about what is possible, that has been poured over you by the world's reasoning. And here is the truth that should cause your heart to leap. Asphalt cracks, clouds disperse, veils tear, and when they do, the life beneath does not creep upward apologetically. It surges. The covering that once seemed impenetrable will prove to have been brittle all along, incapable of resisting the steady, divine pressure of truth asserting itself. You are standing at that moment now. The crack is here, the covering is yielding, the life within is pressing upward. Let it come. Let us now name the law that guarantees this wisdom still speaks, for unless the principle is laid bare before you, the mind will try to reduce what is happening here to chance, emotion, or the fleeting effect of persuasive words. I speak of the law of divine remembrance, a law as certain and exact as the law that keeps the stars in their courses, a law that no human forgetfulness can annul. This law declares that what God has planted in the superconscious cannot be erased by the subconscious, that what was spoken over you in the councils of eternity cannot be drowned out by the noise of time. It affirms that the blueprint of your perfect guidance, your right steps, your divine assignments, is eternally impressed upon your inner being, and that your recognition of it is not the creation of something new, but the lifting of the veil from what has always been there. According to this law, forgetting is never loss. It is only the closing of the eyes to what remains before you. Just as a child who covers his face with his hands imagines the world has vanished, you have imagined that the voice of God within you has gone silent. But the instant you remove your hands, the view is unchanged. The light is undimmed. This is why I speak with such certainty. You are not about to gain something you lacked, but to awaken to what has been active all along. The law of divine remembrance does not operate by human effort. It operates by alignment. The moment your spoken word agrees with the eternal word, the circuit is complete, and the flow of wisdom is restored to your conscious awareness. In that moment, you stop being a seeker stumbling in the dark and become a knower walking in the light. And the light is not intermittent. It is steady, unwavering, and wholly yours by divine right. Many have fallen under the illusion that to forget is to lose, that a lapse in conscious memory signals a void in the eternal storehouse of spirit. But this is a grave misreading of divine reality. Forgetting in the human sense is nothing more than the temporary misplacement of awareness, like stepping into a room you have known all your life and finding it in darkness because the lamp is unlit. The furniture is still there, the treasures remain on the shelves, the windows still open to the same wide view, but until the switch is touched, you stumble as though the room itself had been erased. So it is with the wisdom of God within you. It has not vanished. It waits, unaltered, in the chamber of your spirit, immune to decay or theft. The darkness of forgetfulness is self-imposed, often through agreement with fear, doubt, or the relentless noise of other voices clamoring for your loyalty. Hear me well. The voice of divine wisdom is not a frail echo easily silenced. It is the original tone from which all truth harmonies spring. You cannot unmake it. You cannot diminish it. You cannot exile it. You can only refuse to listen. And even then, it does not stop speaking. It continues, steady as the pulse of the universe, awaiting your willingness to turn the inner ear toward it again. Proverbs tells us, "For the Lord giveth wisdom. Out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding." This is not a one-time utterance in the mists of history. It is the ongoing speech of God into the fabric of your being. The question is not whether he speaks, but whether you have stilled yourself enough to recognize the familiar cadence. And in this hour, that recognition is returning to you, not as a timid recollection, but as a flood of knowing that sweeps away the notion that anything essential has ever been lost. And yet, most never hear it, because they break this one law. They violate the law of divine remembrance, not out of malice, but out of habit, turning their attention away from the steady, unfailing current of spirit to the flickering lanterns of human counsel. They forget that the voice within is not a consultant to be occasionally consulted when convenient, but the sovereign authority over every step and decision. The breaking of this law is subtle. It happens in the moment you entertain fear as if it were fact, in the moment you let the reasoning mind overrule the quiet certainty of intuition, in the moment you give more weight to the shifting testimony of appearances than to the unchanging word of God within. In those moments, you choose amnesia over remembrance, exile over homecoming, wandering over the direct path. But here is the mercy woven into the very fabric of divine law. The instant you turn back, the instant you choose to listen, with the expectancy of a child who knows the gift is already wrapped and waiting, the law is no longer broken. There is no probationary period, no season of earning back the right to hear. The channel is clear the moment you choose it. That is why awakening can be sudden, why the clouds of confusion can vanish in a breath, why the answer you have sought for years can rise unannounced into your mind in the middle of an ordinary moment. For the law is not weakened by your neglect. It only waits for your agreement. And in this hour, as you agree with it in thought, in faith, and soon in the sacred sentence that will be given to you, you will feel the full weight of its operation, the unbroken, unstoppable flow of divine wisdom rushing into your conscious mind, bringing with it the peace that silences every counterfeit voice. You have been seeking counsel from fear rather than from spirit, and that is why the path has felt so tangled beneath your feet. Fear dresses itself in the garments of prudence, caution, and practicality, whispering that it only wants to protect you, but its protection is a prison. When you consult fear, you are asking a jailer for directions to freedom, and the jailer will always lead you back to the cell. Spirit, on the other hand, speaks from the vantage point of omniscience. It sees the end from the beginning, the harvest already waiting in the field, the provision already laid in your storehouse. Yet how often, in the moment of decision, have you leaned toward the loudest voice rather than the truest one? How often have you mistaken the urgency of anxiety for the urgency of divine direction? When you do this, you are like a sailor who ignores the compass to chase the flicker of a distant torch, not realizing it is another vessel adrift without anchor. The mind, untethered from spirit, craves novelty. It wants the fresh opinion, the latest theory, the feeling of movement, even if that movement is in circles. Spirit does not entertain novelty for its own sake. Spirit calls you back to constancy, to the eternal truths that have guided saints and prophets, and every soul that has ever walked in alignment with divine law. The novelty of fear will have you forever packing your bags for a destination you never reach. The constancy of spirit will have you unpacking them at home, discovering that the place you sought was within you all along. And once you begin to discern the difference, once you choose to ask spirit first and last, and to believe its answer without the need for a second opinion, the law of divine remembrance rushes into operation, and the compass that was always yours swings true again. You will see then that every detour was not the absence of guidance, but the refusal to trust it, and that guidance has never, for a moment, ceased to offer you the direct way. Picture it now. A compass covered in mud, its needle hidden, its face obscured, its beauty and utility concealed beneath a crust that came not from a single storm, but from the gradual settling of countless splashes over time. Each splash a word of doubt you accepted as truth. Each layer of dirt a fear you rehearsed until it felt like wisdom. Each hardened speck a compromise you made with appearances. And yet, under that mud, the compass has never stopped knowing where true north lies. The magnet of divine law still pulls the needle toward your appointed course, unfaltering, unconfused, unbroken in its allegiance to the truth of your direction. What is required is not a replacement compass, nor an expensive map, nor the guidance of those who cannot see the stars. What is required is the simple act of cleaning away the obscuring film so the guidance that has never failed you can be seen and trusted again. This cleaning is the work of conscious agreement with spirit. It is the steady refusal to add another layer of mud by speaking the language of fear, by agreeing with the counsel of lack, by consulting the map of one who has never arrived where you are called to go. It is the joyful willingness to take the cloth of truth, which I will soon place into your hands, and sweep away the grime until the face of your inner compass shines again, clear and bright beneath the sun of divine illumination. And when you see it, truly see it, you will wonder how you ever doubted its presence. You will realize that your missteps were never due to its absence, but to your own eyes being fixed elsewhere. And then, with eyes restored to their rightful focus, you will find yourself moving with a sureness that cannot be shaken, for you will have learned that the guidance of spirit is not an occasional gift, but a constant reality, awaiting only your recognition to direct you unfailingly home. In a moment, I will hand you the cloth that clears your compass. But before you take it, you must understand that this act is more than a gesture. It is a covenant. For the cloth I speak of is not woven from the threads of human reasoning, nor is it stitched together from the scraps of other people's advice. It is spun from the living word, from the eternal declarations that shape reality when spoken in faith. To receive it is to agree that you will use it, not once in a crisis and then forget it in a drawer, but daily, moment by moment, whenever the faintest film of doubt tries to settle over your inner sight. It is to agree that you will no longer let fear sit on the throne as interpreter of your direction, but that you will enthrone the Spirit's voice as your sole and final guide. When you take this cloth, and you will take it before this teaching is done, you are accepting the authority that has always been yours, the authority to clear away the obscurations that the world calls realism, but which heaven calls lies. You are declaring that you will not wait for storms to pass or for the wind to change before you navigate. You will steer by the compass of God within, clean and shining, no matter what clouds gather on the horizon. And as you wipe away each particle of falsehood, you will feel again the smooth, unwavering swing of the needle toward your true north. And you will know, with the kind of knowing that ends debate, that you have never been without direction, never been abandoned to drift. The cloth will not give you the compass, it will give you back your sight of it, and in that moment, you will realize that you are already equipped, already prepared, already led, and that the journey before you is not a quest to find wisdom, but a walk in the light of wisdom already found. Cease asking fear for directions, for fear has never once led a traveler to the land of promise. Fear is a liar, but worse than a liar, it is a thief. It steals not only your courage, but your clarity. Each time you consult it, you are like one who hands the map of a treasure to the very robber who intends to keep you from it. And yet, how often have you done this unconsciously, mistaking fear's stern voice for wisdom, its trembling counsel for prudence? You have asked it whether you should speak your word, whether you should step forward, whether you should believe that God has already provided, and it has answered with its habitual litany: wait, hold back, prepare for disappointment. Fear always bids you to shrink, to retreat, to live beneath the level of your divine appointment, and each time you heed it, you deepen the rut of forgetfulness. From this moment on, I tell you, you must refuse to take its calls. When fear knocks, let faith answer. When anxiety offers its map, remember that the landscape it draws is a wasteland of inaction. Instead, turn at once to the Spirit within, the indwelling Christ mind that already sees the path completed, already knows the provision at each stage, already holds the peace you seek. Speak to yourself, out loud if possible. I will not ask fear for counsel, for it knows nothing of my destiny. I consult only the wisdom of God within, which cannot mislead me. Each time you make this refusal, you are not only denying fear a foothold, you are strengthening the habit of remembrance, anchoring your awareness in the law of divine remembrance that never ceases to function. And soon, this refusal will not feel like an effort, but like your natural reflex. For once you taste the sweetness of guidance untainted by fear, you will never again be content to dine on the bitter scraps of its advice. I deny the lie that my wisdom is hidden from me. I deny it with the force of one slamming the door against a persistent intruder, for it has lingered far too long in the corridors of my mind, whispering that the voice of God within is faint, that his counsel is reserved for holier ears, that I must wait for a sign, a season, a qualification before I can be sure. No more. I strip this lie of its disguise. I call it by its true name, deception, and I cast it out. The wisdom of God is not buried beyond reach. It is the pulse of my being, the light in my eyes, the surety in my steps. To believe otherwise is to accuse the infinite of withholding what he has already freely given. Shall I accuse my Father of planting me in this field of life and failing to supply me with the sun and rain of his guidance? Never. The moment I declare that my wisdom is hidden, I agree with the accuser and set myself adrift in a fog of my own making. But the moment I deny that declaration, the moment I affirm the truth that my wisdom is present and available now, the fog thins, the horizon returns, and I stand once again as captain on the bridge of my own vessel, charting the course by the compass of the spirit within. This denial is not an empty negation. It is the clearing of the ground so that the affirmation of truth can take root and flourish. Each time I deny the lie, I am tearing up another root of the weed that has tried to choke my confidence, making more room for the flowers of divine remembrance to bloom in their rightful place. And in this blooming, I not only see my way forward, I delight in the knowing that it was never truly hidden, only obscured, and that the obscuring veil has now been torn beyond repair. The mind of Christ in me knows and reveals, and in this revelation there is no delay, no hesitation, no shadow of doubt. This mind is not a visitor to my consciousness. It is the very life of my consciousness, the divine pattern of thought that was breathed into me when God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." It is not distant, waiting in some far-off heaven for my worthiness to summon it. It is here, now, the inner light by which I may see every path, every decision, every divine appointment with perfect clarity. To affirm this is to take my place on the solid ground of spiritual reality, where I no longer grope in the half-light of human reasoning, but walk in the full illumination of divine understanding. When I say, "The mind of Christ in me knows and reveals," I am not petitioning for a future blessing. I am declaring a present fact. I am calling my attention to the truth that the infinite intelligence which guided Moses through the Red Sea, which led David to the throne, which directed Joseph from prison to palace, is the same intelligence that orders my steps today. And because this mind is in me, my questions are not flung into an empty sky. They are answered from within by the one who knows the end from the beginning and has already marked the way. This knowing is not reserved for important matters only. It operates in the smallest details as well as the great turning points. The Christ mind in me is the still small voice that whispers the right word, the subtle nudge that turns me from danger, the radiant idea that opens doors no man can shut. I need not chase it. I need only still myself to hear it, for it is my own eternal self speaking with the authority of the infinite. And when I live in this awareness, I find that life ceases to be a guessing game and becomes a continuous unfolding of divine order, perfectly timed, perfectly directed, perfectly mine. There is a cloth of words I will soon place into your hands, a sequence of sound born from the eternal, and when you speak it, it will wipe clean the lens of your perception until the face of God's wisdom in you shines unobstructed. I mention it now, not to satisfy curiosity, but to awaken a holy anticipation in your spirit, for the heart that expects is the heart that receives. You must know that what is coming is not a casual phrase or a poetic line to be admired and forgotten. It is a living instrument of alignment, a verbal key forged in the furnace of divine law, designed to turn the lock on the chamber of remembrance and swing its door wide. And when that door opens, what pours through will be as natural and unstoppable as a river reclaiming its course. Even now, as I speak of it, there is a stirring in the deep places of your being, for your spirit recognizes the approach of what it has long awaited. This is why we do not rush the giving. The ground must be prepared so that when the cloth is in your grasp, you will use it with intention, reverence, and constancy. Every moment we spend here is part of that preparation. Each truth spoken loosens another stone in the wall. Each lie denied sends another crack through the asphalt. Each affirmation of divine knowing wipes away another layer of the film. By the time the sacred sentence is revealed, you will be ready not merely to repeat it, but to wield it, not as one trying an experiment, but as one executing a decree whose outcome is certain. And from that moment forward, you will never again doubt that the wisdom of God in you is active, present, and eager to lead you into the fullness of your divine plan. There is a rhythm to divine speech, a cadence that carries both command and comfort, and I will let you feel it in these words. You are standing on the threshold of your own unveiling, and the spirit within has already flung the door wide. Yet I will not have you stumble over the doorway because you rushed forward without steadying yourself in the certainty of what is yours. So I slow the pace here, deliberately, for this moment is not meant to be a blur in your memory, but an anchor point to which you will return again and again. Imagine me taking you by the shoulders and looking into your eyes as I say this. The wisdom you seek has been calling your name since the beginning, and today you have answered. You are not hoping for a signal from heaven. You are recognizing that the signal has been constant, like the sun pouring light even when clouds pass before it. When we move into the sacred decree, your words will become the very wind that scatters those clouds, but you must be ready for the swiftness of the clearing. For some, it will come like the lifting of a veil in a single breath. For others, like the slow, steady withdrawal of mist from a valley as the sun climbs higher. Both are the same miracle. Both reveal the same landscape of certainty, but the pace will be what your soul can bear without retreat. And in that unveiling, your steps will feel different, lighter, surer, no longer weighed down by the burden of wondering whether you are on the right path. You will know, as surely as the compass knows north, as certainly as the seed knows upward, as faithfully as the tide knows its return to shore. And that knowing, once tasted, will ruin you for the restless wandering that once seemed normal, for you will have walked in the calm power of being divinely led, and nothing else will ever satisfy you again. When fear comes to bargain for your attention again, and it will, for fear is persistent even when it has been defeated, you will remember this moment and the vow you have made. You will recall the weight of truth in your bones as you chose to end the long habit of hesitation. In that instant, you will speak not in the tone of one negotiating with an equal, but in the authority of one who knows the laws of the kingdom. You will say, I am divinely led, and no voice but the voice of God may counsel me. And those words will not be a defensive plea, but an unshakable decree. You will not reason with fear. You will not explain yourself to it. You will not allow it to present evidence. You will simply turn, like one who refuses to look back once the gate of the city has shut behind them, and walk on in the path of your appointment. For the path will be clear, not because every turn has been marked in advance on a human map, but because the light within you reveals just enough for the next step, and the next, and the next, and you have come to trust that this is all you need. In this trust, your pace will change. You will move neither with the frantic hurry of the fearful nor the dragging slowness of the doubting, but with the steady cadence of one who knows they cannot be late to what is divinely timed. This is the fruit of refusing fear as your guide. You become immune to its counterfeit urgency, and you find yourself living in a peace that carries you forward without effort. And when others see this peace in you, they will not understand at first, for the world believes guidance must be wrestled for, earned, or found in some external sign. But you will know, you will remember, that it has been with you always, and that your only real work was to listen and obey. You must understand that the discipline of listening to spirit and refusing fear is not a grim duty, but a holy delight, for each act of trust draws you deeper into the current of divine companionship. The Christ mind within is not a stern taskmaster, demanding rigid formality before it will speak. It is the ever-present friend, the indwelling counselor, whose joy is to share with you the vision of your life as heaven has always seen it. And when I affirm, the mind of Christ in me knows and reveals, I am stepping into that companionship fully, acknowledging that I do not walk alone in the dark, hoping to find the right door. I walk arm in arm with the one who holds the master key to every door I am meant to enter. In this companionship, there is no competition, no possibility of betrayal, for it is my own highest self in perfect union with the infinite, guiding me without hesitation and without error. This is why, when the Christ mind reveals, it does so with a certainty that silences all debate. There is no perhaps in divine guidance, no wavering between two opinions. There is only the clear directive, carrying the peace that proves its origin. And as I live in agreement with this mind, I begin to notice that my outer life bends to match the inner order. Conversations align in my favor, opportunities meet me without strain, solutions appear that dissolve problems before they take root. This is the law of divine remembrance in its purest operation. The inner knowing shaping the outer world, the voice within directing the circumstances without. To walk in this is to live in the continuous unveiling of good, so that even in the face of challenge, I know the answer is already present, waiting to be recognized. And with every recognition, my confidence grows until it becomes the very atmosphere I carry, influencing every person, place, and event I encounter. There is a sacred patience in this unfolding, for spirit never forces what must be freely received. And so the great sentence we are moving toward has been hovering at the edge of your awareness, waiting for the soil of your mind to be tilled by these words. I tell you, it is better to prepare deeply than to rush into a decree you are not yet anchored in, for power without rootedness can be squandered. The cloth I will give you, the verbal key, the living decree, will not merely brush away the surface dust, it will strip off the hardened crust of years, revealing the bright face of divine guidance beneath. And once you have seen it in its full clarity, you will not be able to pretend it is hidden from you again. That is why we move with deliberate pace, letting each truth spoken here settle like rain into dry ground, softening the earth so that when the seed of the sentence is planted, it springs up unhindered. You will notice that even now, without having spoken the decree, your inner atmosphere is shifting. Old doubts are loosening their grip, not through force, but through the quiet realization that they were never founded on truth. This is the work of divine remembrance. It does not arm wrestle the lie into submission, it simply shines the light of what is, and the shadow cannot remain. By the time we arrive at the moment of speaking, you will not be straining to believe the words. You will be recognizing them as the exact expression of what you already know to be real. And in that recognition lies their power. The decree will not implant a foreign idea. It will awaken the native wisdom that has always been yours, bringing it to the surface where it can direct every step, choice, and conversation that follows. From that moment, life will no longer feel like a series of guesses. It will feel like a partnership with the one who has been guiding you from the beginning, now seen and acknowledged without interruption. You are standing on the precipice of a shift so complete that the old way of moving through life will seem like a dream you have awakened from, hazy, insubstantial, already fading from memory. When the sacred decree is placed in your mouth, it will not be the birth of something new, but the return of something ancient, a restoration of the voice that spoke to you before you knew how to name it. And once spoken, it will echo within you in a rhythm as natural as your own heartbeat, weaving itself into the cadence of your thoughts until every inner conversation carries its tone. I tell you plainly, this is why so many fail to live by divine guidance. They seek a burst of inspiration and then return to the old pattern of asking fear for permission. But when you speak this decree, you will be changing the pattern itself, replacing the reflex of anxiety with the reflex of remembrance. Do not imagine that this transformation will be fragile, like a spark easily blown out. The wind that follows the decree will not extinguish it. It will spread it. Every time you face a choice, large or small, the words will rise unbidden, clearing the fog before you can entertain it. And in those moments, you will realize that you are no longer bracing yourself against the unknown. You are moving into it with the same confidence a bird has in the sky, for the sky was made for its wings, just as divine wisdom was made for your mind. This is why we take our time now, building layer upon layer of certainty, so that when the decree is finally spoken, it will not be an event you recall, it will be a state you inhabit. And from that state, you will not be seeking guidance. You will be living as guidance, your every step a visible echo of the voice that has been whispering since before your first breath. Say now with me, my wisdom is awake. Let these words roll through you like a wave that does not stop at the shoreline but spills inland, saturating every dry and doubtful place. Do not whisper them as though testing a fragile idea. Speak them as one announcing the dawn to a sleeping city. My wisdom is awake. With each repetition, feel the truth of it pressing outward from within, like the seed bursting through its shell, like the sun burning away the last shreds of night. This is not a hope, not a plea, not an ambition for tomorrow. It is a declaration of present reality. The moment you say it in faith, the law of divine remembrance stirs and moves, aligning your conscious mind with the deep knowing that has never left you. There is a holy defiance in this decree, for it stands in direct contradiction to every appearance that has tried to convince you otherwise. It says to confusion, "You have no home here." It says to hesitation, "Your lease has expired." It says to fear, "Your reign is over." And the moment those false tenants are served their eviction notice, the rightful occupant, the living wisdom of God, steps forward, reclaiming its seat at the head of the table in your inner council. From this place of authority, it will not merely advise you in moments of crisis, it will shape your everyday, directing the smallest errands as surely as the great life decisions, until you find there is no part of your existence untouched by the order, beauty, and precision of divine intelligence. And as you walk in this awareness, you will discover that the world itself begins to speak back to you in harmony, doors opening before you arrive, provision meeting you before the need arises, answers coming before you have fully formed the question. Such is the evidence that your wisdom is indeed awake. Refuse to call yourself lost, for every time you wear that name, you place yourself in a role the divine never authored. To say, "I am lost," is to deny the map engraved in your own spirit, to act as though the compass within you has ceased to point true north, to imagine that God has led you into a wilderness and then abandoned you there. Such words are not harmless self-pity. They are decrees in themselves, shaping your awareness to see absence where there is abundance, to see confusion where there is clarity. If you keep calling yourself lost, you will begin to navigate as a lost one, hesitant, second-guessing, clinging to the nearest voice no matter how misguided it may be. But the moment you refuse that identity, the moment you strip it from your vocabulary and from your inner dialogue, you step out of the role of wanderer and back into the role of heir. You are not lost. You are being led. You are not without direction. You are being guided by the same infinite mind that orders the galaxies and keeps the stars in their courses. This is the truth that must saturate you until it becomes instinct, until it rises to your lips before you can speak any lesser thing. And as you stand in that identity, you will notice something remarkable. The very situations that once felt like mazes will reveal themselves as straight paths. The very delays you cursed will prove to have been perfect pauses, aligning you with provision and timing you could not have planned. Refusing to call yourself lost is more than positive thinking. It is the conscious alignment of your speech with the reality of divine law, and divine law will not be mocked. When you agree with it, it moves, and it moves in your favor. From that position, you can no more be lost than light can be darkened. You are the traveler who carries the sun within, and every step you take illuminates the way before you. I am one with the knower and the knowing, and in this union there is no gap between question and answer, between need and supply, between path and destination. The knower is the infinite mind, the source of all wisdom, the architect of my divine design. The knowing is the perfect outflow of that mind into my consciousness, revealing what is needful in each moment without strain or delay. When I affirm my oneness with both, I dissolve the false division that has kept so many in perpetual seeking, imagining God as a distant oracle to be consulted only in moments of crisis, and the answers as occasional lightning bolts sent from beyond. Number the knower abides in me as my life, my mind, my very breath, and the knowing flows without interruption like the river from its source, unbroken, unpolluted, unstoppable. In this awareness, I cease living as a beggar at the gates of wisdom and take my place as an heir within its halls. I find that the very act of walking becomes an act of revelation, each step uncovering more of the path, each moment presenting the precise thought, word, or action that brings divine order into manifestation. The strain of trying to figure it out falls away, for there is nothing to figure out when the knowing is already present. All that remains is to listen and obey, to trust the seamless connection between the knower and the knowing, to move as one moves with their own breath, naturally, effortlessly, without the need for conscious control. And in this union, guidance is no longer an event but a state, no longer a rare visitation but a constant companionship. Here, I live beyond the reach of confusion, for confusion cannot exist where there is no separation. I dwell in the clarity of the one who sees all, knows all, and shares all with me, without limit and without delay. But there is a greater decree, one you will make public, for the law is not fully sealed until the word is both spoken and witnessed. A decree uttered in the privacy of thought has power, yes, but a decree brought into the light, declared before heaven and earth, takes on the force of a signed covenant. When you speak this greater decree aloud, not as a timid experiment, but as an irrevocable proclamation, you are aligning with the ancient pattern of divine authority. And God said, and it was so. Your word, when it agrees with His, becomes law in your own experience, and the universe itself bends to enforce it. This public declaration is not for the approval of others. It is for the anchoring of your own soul. It is the moment you burn the bridge to the old identity, the instant you make it impossible to retreat into the shadows of uncertainty, for you have spoken your allegiance to the truth and let it stand as a matter of record in the realms both seen and unseen. Understand the weight of this. When you make the greater decree, you are not merely stating your intention to live by divine guidance. You are binding yourself joyfully to it, as a bride binds herself to her beloved. The vow is mutual, for the wisdom of God in you has been waiting to hear you say, with all reservation cast aside, I belong wholly to this guidance, and I will not consult another voice. And from that moment, you will notice the atmosphere around you shift, choices will simplify, distractions will lose their grip. The noise of competing voices will grow faint until they are no more than the echo of a life you no longer inhabit. You will walk as one whose face is set like flint toward the purposes of heaven, and nothing, no storm, no delay, no opposition will have the power to turn you aside. For the decree, once made and sealed in the hearing of heaven, becomes the axis on which your entire life turns, drawing all things into alignment with the path you have chosen without regret. There is a courage required to stand in the open with your decree, for the moment you proclaim it, the remnants of the old self will rise like shadows at dusk, trying to persuade you back into their familiar darkness. They will say, wait until you are stronger, or make your vow in secret so you can change your mind later. But these are the whispers of a dethroned ruler clinging to the last shreds of power. True spiritual courage is not the absence of trembling. It is the choice to speak truth even while the old fears are still howling. And in speaking it, the howl begins to fade, for light and darkness cannot share the same space. The act of declaring in public, whether in front of one soul or 1,000, sends a signal through your entire being that there is no going back, no room for double-mindedness. You have stepped into the arena of faith, and the contest is already won because the law is already on your side. I tell you this because many believe courage is a gift reserved for a select few. But divine law makes no such discrimination. Courage is not bestowed. It is awakened when you act in harmony with your true nature. The moment you agree with the Christ mind within, you have already stepped onto the solid ground where courage lives. And so the decree you will make, the greater decree that seals your remembrance, will not draw its strength from your personality, your preparation, or your past victories. It will draw its strength from the unbreakable fact that you are speaking in concert with the voice of God, and that voice cannot return void. When you grasp this, the fear of declaring falls away like a worn-out garment, and you find yourself not merely willing, but eager to stand and say, this is who I am now, and this is the law under which I live. And as you speak it, heaven bears witness. The earth adjusts itself to your new alignment, and every step thereafter becomes the natural outworking of the vow you have made. Let us pause here for a moment of activation, for it is not enough to understand these truths in theory. They must be spoken into the very air you breathe so that they imprint themselves on your consciousness and ripple outward into creation. Right now, wherever you are, speak aloud with me. The wisdom of God in me is awake, active, and leading me now. Do not rush the words. Let each one land. Let each one vibrate through you like the toll of a great bell that keeps sounding long after the hammer has struck. Say it again, this time with the weight of ownership. The wisdom of God in me is awake, active, and leading me now. With each repetition, you are training your own ears to recognize the cadence of truth, to become so familiar with it that any discordant note, any whisper of doubt or fear, is instantly exposed and dismissed. Feel how the atmosphere shifts when you speak this way. The room may seem lighter, your breath deeper, your thoughts clearer, for you have just issued a command that both heaven and earth are bound to acknowledge. This is the checkpoint, the pivot point in your inner journey where understanding becomes embodiment. In this moment, you are not waiting for some distant day when guidance will finally appear. You are declaring that it is here now, functioning now, unfolding your steps now. And because divine law responds instantly to recognition, you can be certain that even as the words leave your lips, the inner alignment is taking place. Paths are straightening. Decisions are clarifying. The next right step is already lit before you, awaiting your movement. This is the simplicity and the majesty of living by remembrance. You speak the truth, you believe it, and you watch as the unseen order rises into visible form. I am divinely led in every act. Let this not be a passing affirmation, but a continual undercurrent in your consciousness, a truth so settled that you no longer pause to wonder if it is so. You simply move in the quiet assurance that every word you speak, every step you take, every choice you make is infused with the direction of the infinite mind. To be divinely led in every act means there is no division between sacred and ordinary, no moment so small that it falls outside the realm of divine order. The same wisdom that orchestrates the turning of galaxies is present when you decide which road to take home, which conversation to enter, which door to walk through, and which to leave closed. Nothing is too great for its guidance, and nothing is too insignificant for its attention. When you begin to live from this knowing, hesitation loses its grip. You no longer agonize over decisions as though the weight of the world rests on your personal calculation, for you understand that divine intelligence is the true architect of outcomes. You begin to notice that coincidences multiply. The right people cross your path at the precise moment you need them. Resources appear before you even name the need. Solutions unfold without struggle. This is not luck. It is the visible evidence of an invisible law at work, the law of divine remembrance directing your steps with unerring precision. And the more you acknowledge it, the more its activity expands in your awareness, until you find yourself incapable of believing that anything in your life happens by accident. Every act becomes a thread in a tapestry that is being woven in perfect alignment with the pattern already held in the mind of God. To say I am divinely led in every act is to rest in the truth that I cannot miss my way, for the way itself is alive and it knows how to carry me forward. The wisdom of God in me cannot be silenced. No amount of noise in the outer world, no clamor of conflicting opinions, no roar of circumstance has the authority to mute the voice that speaks from the center of my being. That voice is not tentative. It does not waver between possibilities. It speaks with the same certainty that called the universe into being, the same authority that said, "Let there be light," and saw the light appear. This wisdom is not an intermittent broadcast that fades in and out depending on the strength of my emotions. It is the constant signal of the infinite, unwavering, immutable, streaming truth into the depths of my awareness. Any appearance of silence is not the absence of the voice, but my own attention turned elsewhere. The moment I bring my focus back, I find it has been speaking all along, waiting for my readiness to hear. To live in the awareness that the wisdom of God in me cannot be silenced is to stop treating guidance as a rare visitation and start treating it as a continual presence. It means I no longer beg for answers as though they were locked in a vault. I open my inner ears and hear what has been waiting for me since before my first breath. And when I hear, I obey, without bargaining, without delay, for obedience is the seal upon revelation. This wisdom is my inheritance, not a loan, my birthright, not a privilege for the few. No situation can drown it out, for it speaks from within, and its source is eternal. Even in the face of seeming chaos, even in the press of urgent decisions, I can lean back into the unshakable reality that my inner counsel is intact, speaking with clarity and authority. This knowing frees me from the tyranny of appearances, for I have learned that the loudest voice is rarely the truest. and the truest voice has never been silent. Each of these affirmations, I am divinely led in every act, the wisdom of God in me cannot be silenced, is a beam of light cutting through the old fog, and together they form a constellation of truth by which you navigate. But there is yet more light to add, for divine guidance does not only concern your inward peace, it directs your outward expression, your interactions, your works in the world. To live by remembrance is to become a vessel through which wisdom flows into action, into speech, into the shaping of circumstances themselves. This is why you must also affirm, every word I speak is aligned with divine order. For when your speech is aligned, your world aligns. The creative word, once spoken, goes out to accomplish its purpose and cannot return void. It draws to you that which matches its nature. When you speak from remembrance, your words carry the substance of truth, and truth is irresistible. Consider the power of living in such alignment. Conversations become conduits of blessing, decisions become demonstrations of order. Even the smallest exchanges carry the fragrance of the Spirit's wisdom. Others may not be able to name what they sense in your presence, but they will feel the surety, the peace, the quiet authority that comes from one who knows they are guided in every moment. And this guidance is not erratic. It is consistent, reliable, as steady as the law itself, because it is the law itself in operation. The more faithfully you align your speech with divine order, the more quickly you see discord dissolve and harmony establish itself in your affairs. This is not imagination. It is the lawful outworking of agreement between your inner truth and your outer expression. To remember your divine wisdom is to give it voice, and in giving it voice, you call forth a world that reflects its perfection. Light, speak in me now. This is not a request to some distant flame, not a plea for a reluctant sun to rise. It is a command issued to the radiant presence already alive at the core of my being. The light does not need to travel to reach me. It is the very essence of who I am in God. When I say light, speak in me now, I am calling forth the eternal utterance that has never ceased, the perfect wisdom that is always ready to clothe itself in my words and my actions. This light is not timid. It does not ask permission from the shadows to shine. It pours itself through every opening I give it, illuminating my mind with ideas that carry the fragrance of heaven, energizing my speech with authority, and infusing my steps with purpose so unmistakable that hesitation has no place to stand. In commanding the light to speak in me now, I remove the final veil between inspiration and expression. The guidance I have known within becomes the guidance I live without, visible to all who encounter me. And as the light speaks, it carries a tone the world cannot counterfeit, a clarity that pierces through confusion, a peace that silences argument, a certainty that draws right conditions as surely as the sun draws life from the seed. From this moment, I no longer move as one groping for direction. I move as the embodiment of the direction already given. The light speaks, I act, and in that seamless union of knowing and doing, life becomes a continuous flow of right steps, right timing, and right results. And because the light is eternal, this flow is endless, requiring no strain to sustain, only my continued willingness to remain open, receptive, and obedient to its voice. All that we have spoken, all that we have declared, all the clouds we have swept from the sky of your consciousness have been leading to this one concentrated point of power, the sacred sentence that gathers every truth into a single shaft of light. You have been primed for it, not by my persuasion, but by the law itself, which has been stirring within you from the first word we shared. This is the decree that seals the remembrance, the word that fastens the anchor of your guidance so deeply into the bedrock of your being that no tide of circumstance can loosen it. Hear it now, and know that it is not merely a statement. It is a contract, a covenant, a spiritual signature written in the ink of divine authority. I now remember and act upon the wisdom God placed within me before I was formed. When you speak this aloud, and you must, you are not creating the wisdom. You are releasing it from every false covering. You are telling heaven and earth alike that you are done with delay, done with doubt, done with seeking in places that never had your answer. You are standing as a witness to your own soul, proclaiming that what God has deposited in you is alive, awake, and operative now. And because divine law is precise and immediate, the very moment these words pass your lips in faith, shifts will begin, subtle or sudden, but certain. Paths will appear where walls once stood. Answers will come without the old mental wrestling. A peace will settle in that is not born of outer conditions, but of the certainty that you can never again be truly confused, for the compass has been restored to your sight. This is the moment of activation, and once done, it cannot be undone, for the law has recorded your decree, and all of life will now conspire to fulfill it. Type it exactly as you have spoken it, for in writing the decree you give it a second life, pressing it deeper into the fabric of your reality. Do not alter a single syllable. Do not embellish it with explanations, for its power is in its purity. I now remember and act upon the wisdom God placed within me before I was formed. When you place these words in the open, not hidden in a private notebook but visible before witnesses, you establish a public contract with divine law. It is a signal to the seen and unseen realms that you have crossed a line from which you will not retreat. Others may scroll past your words without comprehension, but the law will not pass them by. It will take them as binding, as an authorized instruction to bring your life into alignment with what you have declared. Understand this. The act of typing your decree is not mere ritual, it is a seal. Just as a king once pressed his signet ring into wax to mark a command as irreversible, so your written words become the imprint of your spirit's will. From that moment, the decree stands whether you think of it constantly or not, for divine law does not depend on your mood to operate. And every time you return and see those words, you will feel the same certainty you feel now, for they will not have grown stale. Truth never does. This is why I urge you to take this step without delay, to make your comment not only as a testimony, but as a landmark, so that when you look back, you can point to the very moment you turned from the habit of forgetting to the practice of remembrance. And in the days ahead, as you begin to see evidence of its fulfillment, you will know that this single act was the point at which the tide turned in your favor forever. This decree is your spiritual contract, and to neglect it would be to walk away from an open vault, leaving treasures untouched. When you speak it, when you write it, you are not simply engaging in symbolic action. You are engaging the machinery of divine law, and once set in motion, it does not falter. The heavens have already recorded your words. The seal has already been pressed into the wax of eternity. What remains is for you to walk in the reality of what you have declared, to live as though it were impossible for you to be without guidance, because it is impossible. Every thought, every conversation, every choice from this moment forward becomes an opportunity to confirm the truth you have spoken. And each confirmation strengthens the pathway between your conscious mind and the infinite storehouse of wisdom within, until there is no break, no gap, no lapse in the flow of direction from God's mind to yours. I must tell you plainly, there is no neutral ground once you have spoken this decree. You cannot unring this bell. If you attempt to live as though you are still confused, as though the voice within is still silent, you will feel the friction of truth against pretense, the discomfort of trying to wear garments that no longer fit. This is the mercy of divine law, for it will not allow you to settle back into the old sleep. Even in moments when you are tempted to doubt, the remembrance will rise unbidden, interrupting the lie before it takes root. And as you yield to it, you will find that your days acquire a different rhythm, not the jerky stop and start of human guessing, but the smooth, unbroken flow of Spirit's leading. This is the life you have entered by your own word, and it will only deepen with each act of agreement until the wisdom you once sought as a distant light becomes the very air you breathe. Within the next 24 hours, you will begin to see the signs of your decree taking form, for divine law wastes no time in fulfilling what is spoken in alignment with truth. Some of these signs will come as subtle inner shifts, a thought arriving without effort, carrying the ring of certainty, a sudden peace replacing the gnawing of indecision, an idea that feels both brand new and strangely familiar, as though you have simply recalled what you once knew. Others will come as visible outer events, the right person crossing your path unexpectedly, a door swinging open that you had resigned yourself to seeing shut, a message or opportunity appearing without your having chased it. You will know these moments not only by their content, but by the unmistakable atmosphere that accompanies them, a sense of divine timing so exact that you could not have orchestrated it if you tried. Do not brush these evidences aside as coincidence, for to do so would be to dismiss the very answer you have summoned. Instead, mark them, note them, give thanks for them, for gratitude is the magnet that draws more. Each recognition of fulfillment strengthens the bond between your word and its manifestation, until the flow of guidance becomes so natural that you forget what it was like to live without it. This is how remembrance works. It starts as moments of recognition and grows into an unbroken awareness. And because you have entered into this covenant by your own choice, you are now a participant in its unfolding, not a spectator waiting for a distant promise to arrive. Every acknowledgement, every act of obedience to the guidance you receive is another thread woven into the fabric of your new life, a life in which confusion has no dominion and the wisdom of God is not a rare gift but your constant companion. And I tell you, this is only the beginning, for the decree you have spoken today is but the first stone in a path that stretches far beyond this moment. The law of divine remembrance is not a one-time intervention. It is a continual unfolding, an ever-widening river that will carry you into realms of clarity and purpose you have not yet imagined. That is why I call you to return tomorrow, not out of routine, but out of momentum. The work we have begun in this hour will deepen with each reaffirmation, each conscious agreement, each choice to act on the guidance you now receive. Divine law responds to persistence with acceleration. What you revisit in faith grows stronger, surer, more visible in its effects. When you return, you will bring with you the evidence you have gathered, the inner confirmations, the outer manifestations, and we will seal them into the next layer of your remembrance. Do not think of this as repetition for repetition's sake. Each time you speak the decree, it cuts deeper into the stone of your consciousness until it becomes the immovable foundation on which all your thoughts rest. And with each layer of reinforcement, the guidance you receive will become more precise, more immediate, and more aligned with the divine sequence prepared for you. You will find yourself less swayed by appearances, less tempted by detours, less concerned with the approval or understanding of others. Instead, you will live in the quiet authority of one who knows exactly where they are going and exactly who is leading them there. Tomorrow is not just another day. It is the next step in the ongoing revelation of the wisdom you have reclaimed today, and the law, once engaged, will meet you there, ready to take you further into the life already written for you in the mind of God. There is a reason I tell you this is only part one of your breakthrough, for the wisdom you have now reawakened must be exercised, expanded, and applied in ways that will transform every sphere of your life. A truth left idle will grow dim in your awareness, not because it has lost its power, but because you have ceased to look toward it. This is why the Spirit always calls us onward, not to chase what is absent, but to keep our gaze fixed on what is present until its full measure is revealed. In the coming days, we will go beyond the remembrance of guidance into the mastery of living from it, so that every action, every conversation, every opportunity is shaped by the certainty of divine direction. The wisdom you carry is not meant to remain within you as a hidden jewel. It is meant to be displayed, to radiate into the world through your choices, your words, your presence. And so I tell you now, there is a missing half to what you have received today, and it will be given in the continuation of this teaching. When you hear it, you will understand why the law never works in fragments, why the revelation you have now must be joined with the principle that sustains it through every change in appearance and every challenge to your faith. Until then, you will walk in the light you have, and that light will guide you directly to the appointed moment when the second half is spoken. But I will give you this key. The continuation will require the same openness, the same willingness to act, and the same refusal to consult fear that has brought you to this point. Keep your heart steady, for the journey has only begun, and the same law that has awakened your remembrance will ensure that you arrive at the fullness of your breakthrough without delay. Before we part for today, there is one more act that will multiply the power of what you have received, the act of sharing it. If there is someone you love, someone you see walking in circles, trapped in the same fog you once knew, send this word to them now. Do not delay, for delay is the ally of forgetfulness. You may think, they are not ready, but readiness often comes in the moment truth arrives, not before. And if the Spirit has brought their face to your mind even as I speak, that is the nudge of divine law urging you to be the messenger. When you share, you are not merely passing along words. You are extending the reach of the law itself, creating a ripple in the unseen that can awaken another as surely as you have been awakened. This is how remembrance multiplies, not by hoarding it, but by allowing it to flow outward. Each time you speak it, each time you give it away, it becomes more vivid in your own consciousness, for you cannot give what you do not first hold. And when you see the shift in them, when their eyes light with the same recognition that is burning in you now, you will understand that this law was never meant to serve you alone, but to move through you into the lives of others. You become a living witness, a carrier of the flame, and everywhere you go, the atmosphere changes simply because you have chosen to remember and to help others do the same. Do not underestimate this act. The simple obedience of sharing may be the very spark that reignites a destiny, and heaven will bear witness that you played your part in the great chain of divine remembrance. And now, let us seal this moment with the decree itself, spoken not once but 3 times, for repetition presses the truth deeper into the fertile soil of your spirit. Say it with me slowly, letting each word strike like a hammer on the anvil of your consciousness. I now remember and act upon the wisdom God placed within me before I was formed. Again, with greater force, feeling the resonance of eternity in your own voice. I now remember and act upon the wisdom God placed within me before I was formed. One final time, not as a plea, but as the proclamation of one who knows the law is already at work. I now remember and act upon the wisdom God placed within me before I was formed. As you speak it, notice the shift within you. A stillness that is not emptiness but fullness, a calm that is alive with direction. This is the nature of true remembrance. It does not strain, it does not grasp, it does not chase. It rests in the assurance that what God has planted is already growing, already bearing fruit. Let this sentence become the rhythm of your inner life, the drumbeat beneath your days, so steady that no competing voice can pull you off tempo. And when the shadows of old habits or doubts attempt to gather, return to this decree and speak it again, for each repetition clears the sky anew and strengthens your alignment with the law. Remember, the voice of God within you is not a fleeting guest. It is the eternal resident of your being. You have opened the door to it today, and from this moment forward, it will not be shut. And now, I speak over you the blessing that seals not only this moment, but the path that lies ahead. The Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones. And thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. These words from Isaiah are not a poetic wish. They are a living covenant that echoes the very decree you have made. Continual guidance means there will be no gaps in your clarity, no lapses in the flow of wisdom. Even in what the world calls a drought, your soul will be fed, your strength renewed, your purpose confirmed. Like a garden planted in rich soil, your life will flourish in all seasons, because its nourishment comes from a source that cannot run dry. This is the promise to those who remember and act upon the wisdom placed within them, that their steps will always be ordered, their path always lit, their provision always sure. Take this blessing as your final word today, letting it wrap around you like a mantle. Feel it settle upon your mind, quieting every lingering trace of confusion. Let it soak into your heart until you can almost feel the pulse of that spring within you, flowing without pause, carrying the refreshment of divine truth into every thought and decision. You are no longer one who wanders, no longer one who waits for permission to move. You are one who walks in step with the infinite, one whose every act is animated by the life of God, one whose very presence testifies to the reality of his unfailing guidance. Go from this moment with the calm boldness of one who knows they are never without direction, and let your life, from this day until your last, be the visible evidence of the law you have now embraced. As you step back into the flow of your daily life, Carry this awareness like a lamp that cannot be extinguished. The conversations you enter, the decisions you face, the environments you walk into, all of them will now feel the influence of the decree you have spoken. You may notice that your responses come quicker, not from haste, but from a deep certainty. You will catch yourself recognizing answers before the question is even fully formed, sensing the right path before your foot touches the ground. This is the evidence that the law of divine remembrance is fully engaged. The wisdom within is no longer an occasional visitor that knocks politely at your door. It is the master of the house, moving freely through every room of your life. You are not consulting it, you are living from it, and that is the highest state a soul can know. There will be moments when others look at you with wonder, perhaps even confusion, as they see doors open for you without your pounding on them, or watch you decline what appears to be an opportunity because you discern the hidden snare they cannot see. Do not shrink from this. You are not here to blend into the fog of human reasoning. You are here to be a clear signal of divine guidance in action. Every act of obedience you make to the inner voice reinforces its authority in your life and magnifies its witness to those around you. Some will be drawn to the peace you carry and ask you how it is that you move with such ease. That is your moment to speak, to plant in them the seed of the same remembrance that has awakened in you. And so the law multiplies, not through force, but through the undeniable evidence of a life lived in step with the mind of God. And remember, this journey you have entered is not sustained by bursts of inspiration alone, but by the steady rhythm of agreement with truth. Just as a river carves its course through constant flow, not through sudden floods, so the wisdom of God shapes your life through continuous acknowledgement, daily recognition, and moment-by-moment obedience. This is why I tell you to revisit your decree each day, not as a ritual of desperation, but as a celebration of certainty. Each repetition is a fresh consent for the law to operate without hindrance. It keeps your mind attuned to the frequency of divine guidance so that distractions lose their hold before they can root themselves in your awareness. The decree is not a single spark that burns out. It is the perpetual flame on the altar of your consciousness, never allowed to go dim. There will be mornings when you wake and feel the stillness of God before you have even opened your eyes, and you will know without question that your steps are already ordered. There will be evenings when, looking back over your day, you realize how seamlessly the right connections, decisions, and opportunities appeared, not by your calculated striving, but by the quiet outworking of the law. These are not anomalies. They are the natural fruit of remembrance. And if ever you find your clarity beginning to waver, do not panic, for the law has not ceased. Simply return to your decree, speak it with intention, and watch the fog dissolve. You are no longer learning to find your way. You are living in the reality that your way has been found from the beginning. This is your inheritance, your unshakable ground, and as long as you honor it with your words and your trust, it will never fail you. And here is the final truth I will leave in your hands today. You are now a keeper of the pattern. What you have received is not a fleeting emotional high, not a passing encouragement to be forgotten in the press of daily life, but a living blueprint that reveals how divine wisdom moves from the unseen into the seen. Guard it, not by hoarding it in secrecy, but by honoring it in use. A pattern gains strength through repetition, through the faithful tracing of its lines, until they are etched into the very structure of your being. Every time you consult the wisdom within before you act, every time you affirm your decree in the face of doubt, every time you choose spirit over fear, you are retracing that pattern and making it permanent. Soon, it will not be something you must consciously remember to do. It will simply be who you are. From this place, you will begin to see your life take on a different texture. Synchronicities will feel commonplace, though they are anything but common. Decisions will resolve themselves with a swiftness that surprises you, not because you have become reckless, but because you have become certain. Even challenges will lose their sting, for you will meet them with the unshakable knowledge that the answer already exists within and will be revealed in perfect timing. This is the legacy of the law of divine remembrance, a life lived without the wasted energy of confusion, without the corrosive influence of hesitation, without the exhausting chase after external approval. You walk in your own God-given knowing, and in doing so, you give others permission to find theirs. This is how the pattern spreads, from one awakened soul to another, until the remembrance becomes a movement, and the movement becomes the norm for all who are willing to step into the light that has been shining in them from the very beginning. And so we close this hour with the awareness that nothing has been added to you today that was not already there. We have only cleared the path, drawn back the veil, and called forth what the Eternal planted before time began. You are leaving this moment not heavier with new burdens, but lighter, for the weight of forgetting has been lifted from your shoulders. The voice within, which once seemed faint or distant, is now the most certain sound you know. The guidance you once sought in scattered places has come home to its rightful seat in your own soul. You are no longer chasing answers. You are living from the answer. Every breath you take now carries the rhythm of remembrance, and every step you take is aligned with the design of heaven. Carry this awareness into all that you do, not as a fragile ember you must protect from the wind, but as a steady flame that cannot be extinguished. It will not falter when the world's noise rises, for it is rooted in the silence of God, where no counterfeit voice can intrude. Let your decree be your constant companion, spoken when you rise, whispered in moments of decision, declared boldly when fear tries to call your name. And as the days pass, watch how the outer landscape of your life bends to reflect the inner order you have embraced. Doors will open that you did not knock upon. Paths will straighten that once twisted and turned. Provision will meet you before you even name the need. This is not chance. It is the inevitable result of living in agreement with the wisdom of God within you. And from this day forward, you will never again believe the lie that you are without direction, for you have heard the truth and made it your own. And truth, once claimed, will not let you go. You stand now as one who has crossed a threshold that cannot be uncrossed, for the door of remembrance once opened does not swing shut again. The law has recorded your decree, and the wisdom it awakens in you will continue to flow, not in fits and starts, but as a steady river that deepens with every mile it travels. In time, you will forget what it was like to live in the fog of indecision, because certainty will have become your native air. And this certainty is not arrogance, nor is it the brittle confidence of self-reliance. It is the quiet, unshakable assurance that comes from walking in step with the mind that knows the end from the beginning. You will not need to announce it to prove it. Your peace will speak for you, your fruit will testify, your very presence will carry the evidence that you are led, guided, and upheld in all things. Guard this flow not with fear, but with gratitude. For gratitude is the great preserver of all that the Spirit gives. Each time you acknowledge the wisdom at work in your life, whether in a great deliverance or a small nudge, you strengthen the channels through which it comes. Speak often of the faithfulness of God's guidance, not as a theory, but as a lived reality. Let your remembrance spill into your conversations, your decisions, your plans, until it becomes impossible to separate your daily life from the divine order that animates it. And know this: the more faithfully you live from this place, the more you will become a signpost for others. They will see in you a way of being that is foreign to the noise and confusion of the world, and they will hunger for it. When they ask, you will tell them what you now know, that the wisdom they seek is already in them, placed there by God before they were formed, waiting only for the moment of remembrance to bring it into full expression. So let this be the ongoing testimony of your life, that you did not merely hear these words and feel a passing stir in your heart, but that you took them as your own and walked them out until they became flesh in your every action. Many hear truth and let it slip away like water through open fingers, but you are not among them. You have closed your hands around it, not to clutch it in fear, but to hold it with the reverence of one who knows its worth. And because you have claimed it, the law will continue to confirm it in ways both seen and unseen. Days will come when the path unfolds so effortlessly that you will smile in silent wonder, knowing it is the direct fruit of the decree you planted here. Other days may bring challenges, but even then, you will stand without panic, for you will have learned that the same wisdom that lights the way in calm seas will steer you through the fiercest storms. The world may call this confidence luck, intuition, or even coincidence, but you will know its true name: divine remembrance. You will not need to defend it, for its results will be undeniable. And the more you live in it, the more others will begin to realize that what they see in you is not reserved for a chosen few, but available to any who will listen and obey the voice within. Thus, your life will become an open invitation, a living proof that the wisdom of God is not locked in some distant heaven, but already seated in the throne room of every soul. And when they ask you for the secret, you will smile, speak the sacred sentence, and watch as the same light that once broke through for you begins to break through for them. This is how the law multiplies, from life to life, word to word, remembrance to remembrance, until the whole earth is lit with the knowing of what was given from the very beginning. And when you look back on this day, whether it is a month from now, a year, or a decade, you will not remember it merely as the moment you heard something beautiful. You will remember it as the hour the axis of your life shifted. For everything turns from here. The decisions you make, the way you enter a room, the way you meet opportunities and challenges, all of it will flow from a new center of authority within you. You will walk with the calm assurance of one who knows that every step is ordered, every word is timed, every connection is purposeful. The sense of wandering that once clung to you will be gone, replaced by the steady rhythm of guidance that never falters. And even in seasons where outer conditions seem slow to change, you will feel the inner movement, the steady current of wisdom carrying you forward with a certainty that nothing in the outer world can imitate or counterfeit. This is the fruit of the decree. You no longer chase after direction as though it were scarce, you live as one who is already in possession of it. And possession breeds peace. Peace in waiting, because you know the appointed time cannot be missed. Peace in acting, because you know the action is divinely inspired. Peace in resting, because you know that even in stillness, the law is working on your behalf. And that peace will become magnetic. It will draw to you the right people, the right provisions, the right moments, because the vibration of certainty is irresistible to all that belongs to you. So let this hour be marked in your spirit, not as the end of a teaching, but as the beginning of a life lived in unbroken alignment with the wisdom that has always been yours. From this moment, you do not walk toward your guidance. You walk with it, as constant as your own shadow in the light of the everlasting sun. And so we bring this hour to its close, but not its power. For what has been set in motion here will continue to work long after these words have faded from your ears. The law of divine remembrance is relentless in its fulfillment. Once activated, it does not slumber or pause. Even now, while you breathe, while you move through the ordinary motions of your day, it is aligning conversations, opening unseen doors, clearing away obstacles you do not yet know exist. You will step into moments that feel uncannily prepared for you because they have been. This is not the product of chance, but of the decree you have spoken, the covenant you have entered, and the agreement you have sealed between your conscious mind and the eternal mind of God. That agreement is now the most stable thing in your life, more stable than the ground beneath your feet, more reliable than the beating of your heart, for it is upheld by the same word that upholds the stars in their courses. Leave this moment, then, not as one closing a book, but as one stepping through a gate. Behind you lies the life of seeking without finding, asking without hearing, wandering without destination. Before you stretches the life of clarity, of guidance, of a certainty that remains unshaken by appearances. You are now one who walks in rhythm with the infinite, and every act from here on will bear the mark of that alignment. Guard it, nurture it. Speak it daily until it is so woven into your being that even your silence carries its vibration. And when others encounter you, let them leave knowing, even if they cannot explain why, that they have brushed against something eternal, the living wisdom of God, awake and active in you. This is your inheritance. This is your birthright. This is the life you now live, and it will not be taken from you. Take one last deep breath in this sacred space and recognize that nothing about you is the same as when you first entered it. The shift may feel subtle, like the slow turning of a great ship, or it may feel electric, like a lightning strike splitting the sky. But it is certain. You have crossed from a posture of waiting into a posture of possessing, from the restless questioning of, "Will I ever hear?" into the steady knowing of, I have heard, and I continue to hear. This is not a fleeting emotional crest. It is the laying of a new foundation. Upon it, you will build conversations, decisions, relationships, and ventures, all shaped by the clarity that flows unceasingly from within. You will begin to notice that you no longer scramble to make things happen, for the rhythm of divine timing will govern your steps, and you will be content to arrive at the exact moment prepared for you by the infinite. Let this hour become a memorial in your spirit. Mark it in your heart so that when the old patterns attempt to whisper, "You are lost again," you can answer them without hesitation. No, my wisdom is awake, my compass is clear, and my God is guiding me now. That sentence will rise in you like a standard, scattering the shadows before they can gather. And as you live in this posture day after day, the evidence will multiply, not because you force it, but because the law responds faithfully to agreement. The same spirit that hovered over the waters in the beginning now hovers over every area of your life, speaking form into what seemed formless, speaking order into what seemed chaotic, speaking light into every shadow. You will find yourself walking through days that feel orchestrated, conversations that feel scripted in heaven, and opportunities that fit so perfectly they could not have come from anywhere but the mind that knows you completely. This is the new normal for you now. Life under the continual counsel of the wisdom God placed within you before you were formed. And as you move forward, remember that the wisdom you carry is not meant to be hoarded, but to flow. For what is retained in selfishness soon stagnates, but what is poured out in obedience only multiplies. The very act of living from divine guidance will draw others to you, not because you seek followers, but because the fragrance of peace and certainty is irresistible in a world gasping under the weight of confusion. They will watch how you navigate storms without panic, how you choose with quiet assurance, how you seem to meet the right moments without frantic chasing. Some will think it is luck, others will call it timing, but you will know it is the unbroken operation of the law of divine remembrance, shaping your path as surely as the river carves the valley. And when they ask how you do it, you will not give them vague answers or point them toward external signs. You will tell them the truth, that what they seek has already been placed within them by the one who formed them. You will become a witness not only in words, but in the very atmosphere you carry. Every place you set your foot will feel the order you walk in. Conversations will shift in tone because of the peace you bring. Even those who oppose you will find themselves disarmed by the authority in your presence. For authority born of divine guidance needs no defense. This is how the kingdom advances, not always through dramatic displays, but through the quiet, steady influence of those who live from the center of God's counsel. And you, having spoken your decree and sealed it in action, are now counted among them. So go, not timidly, but with the calm strength of one who knows they cannot miss their appointed path. Let your life itself be the invitation to remembrance, until those who walk beside you begin to awaken, and those who follow after you find their own compass cleared, and the wisdom that has always been theirs rising at last into the light. And so, beloved, I release you now into the keeping of the same presence that has spoken to you through every word of this hour, the presence that was with you before you were formed, that has walked beside you through every valley, that has waited patiently for this moment of remembrance. You do not leave this space alone. You go carrying the decree as a living banner over your life. Let it be the first thought upon waking, the last upon sleeping, the steady refrain that undergirds your days. I now remember and act upon the wisdom God placed within me before I was formed. With each repetition, it will not lose strength. It will deepen, settling into the marrow of your being until it is inseparable from who you are. And in that merging, the line between guidance sought and guidance lived will vanish. You will simply be one who moves in divine order without question or delay. Go then into your world as a keeper of light, as one who does not dim their flame for fear of the dark, but who understands that darkness flees where light is allowed to shine. In your words, in your decisions, in the way you carry yourself, let the evidence of divine wisdom be unmistakable. When challenges come, and they will, meet them with the calm smile of one who knows the answer is already prepared. When opportunities arrive, Step into them with the confidence of one whose timing is never off. And when others see in you what they cannot name, tell them the truth and give them the key, so that remembrance spreads from heart to heart, voice to voice, until the knowledge of God's guidance fills the earth like the waters cover the sea. This is not the end of your journey, but the unfolding of a new chapter in which you will walk, speak, and live as one forever aligned with the wisdom that has always been yours. Amen.